Hello, everyone. Welcome to CFBBroadcast.com. Week 8 college football review is Week 8 provided a lot of exciting games, and we're coming to you live, and we're going to review those games this week here at the She Shed Radio Studios in Alabama. And we're going to jump right into the games, and I guess we can start with the game of the week that probably shocked most people. Who saw this coming? Wisconsin goes to Illinois just as we've been bragging about them all year, and they laid an egg.
That's what happens when you put too much faith in them. They did look good all those games. You know, they were pitching shutouts, and all of a sudden, lowly Illinois catches up with them. I mean,
who saw that coming?
Well, it was a weird day all day yesterday.
It was.
Had a weird feeling to the whole day, and a lot of games.
Yeah, it was. But Wisconsin, a big 30-point favorite, and they go in there and just laid the egg.
They did.
Lovie Smith, Santa Claus, with his Santa Claus beard.
Yeah, he was happy after the game. He said that was their signature win. They needed one, and I you can't get a bigger signature win than that one for them this year.
No, I did not see that coming. I had really, and I was really hoping that I was going to see a good game between them and Ohio State this week. But if you can't beat Illinois, how are you going to beat Ohio State at Ohio State? That was a disappointing game, because as good as I think Ohio State is, I don't think they've played anybody, and I still think they will get a good game from Wisconsin. But that's a loss that leaves a mark for Wisconsin. I don't care if Wisconsin goes the rest of the way and wins the rest of their games. That'll be a game that will keep you out of the playoff. Nobody loses to an Illinois team like that and gets in the playoffs.
That's what I guess maybe Wisconsin. You could say they were looking ahead, or I mean, I don't expect Ohio. I don't expect them to beat Ohio State, but I expect it to be a close game. That's my expectation.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, and we'll look at the games of the week coming up this week as they go from having one of the more memorable games this week in Week 8, or the most memorable game in Week 8 in shaping the college football season. By far and away the biggest upset of the year so far, I would say. You?
I think it is.
I do too. I mean, they'd had 4 shutouts in 6 games or so. That was I did not see that. I could have seen a close game, but not losing to Illinois. I just couldn't see it.
I think they may have been looking ahead.
Could have been. Game of the week, I don't think necessarily it was a game of the week, but maybe a statement of the week is LSU saying that they're for real. A lot of people said, hey, they're coming off a big win against Florida. Now they got to go on the road against a Mississippi State team that's been struggling. And LSU just took care of business.
Yeah, they started a little slow. They had 3 trips into the red zone and came away with 3 field goals, which is uncharacteristic of them this year. So they got off to a little slow start, but then it came around. And obviously Mississippi State's not that good anyway. So. No. I mean, it was inevitable that they were going to get it going, but they didn't. LSU didn't start off as hot as they normally have this year.
No, they didn't. But I think you said a lot when you talked about State. Maybe the bigger story here is not that LSU dominated the way they did, but maybe there's a little bit of truth. Maybe there's a little bit to the Moorhead leaving the SEC. Maybe. What would you think about that? Here's second year, leave. You think any truth to Mississippi State coach Moorhead leaving to go to Rutgers?
I think maybe. Who cares, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I really, it's not like a big. So it wouldn't be a big surprise to me, and it wouldn't be like a big shock. And I don't think anybody would care, just to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think the Mississippi State fans
And
would
I don't
care
think
at this
Rutgers would
point.
be. I don't see why Rutgers would be happy to. I mean,
Well, they're Rutgers.
well, he's obviously he's not. He's in over his head a little bit in the SEC.
Yeah.
But I don't. But Rutgers is awful too. So I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe they would get excited about. But I don't think anybody around in the SEC country would care if he left or stayed.
I don't either. I don't either. But that's strange to see how that everybody came in singing his praises last year, and then to see it kind of fizzling out the way it is. Not to take anything away from LSU, because they totally dominated that game, made a statement, and to me, they've looked better than anybody in the country. Them and Ohio State, they've looked better than anybody in the country up to this point. Probably Ohio State for me, and then LSU, and then Alabama. But that will all play out, and we will see. Another game that shaked the season, Michigan loses another big game. Harbaugh can't win a big game.
He just can't do it. I mean, it's just he can't do it. I mean, he's not a big game coach. I mean, he loses all of the big games he plays in. They lose. I mean, and I don't think the Michigan fans are gonna take this too much longer. Maybe not even the administration. I mean, I know he played there and they love him there. They say they love him there. Well,
they did.
I mean, he can't win the big game. When is he going to win the big game?
I don't know.
And they're not going to win with that style of offense.
No, man, it's boring. It's like going back in time.
I mean, football has changed. It has changed, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
You're not gonna win like that anymore. I mean, just take a look at LSU. All they need to do is look down south to LSU to what they did. LSU last year was mediocre. I mean, they had a great defense, but they ran that slow, boring offense, and then this year they get they got a passing coordinator that came in, changed the offense.
He's turning the thing around.
I mean, that's what they need to look at.
Yeah, I think he's just so hard-headed. Did you see Harbaugh, hard-headed being hardball, did you see him after the game, the press conference, just how defeated he sounded?
Yeah, I mean, he knows he can't win the big game. And he's like, but he's got the power to change that.
Yeah,
it's
all at his feet.
He's got to change his philosophy.
I don't know how this thing ends. He's got a big game this week we will talk about, and I don't see how you can keep asking the players to give it all you got when you're not doing as a coaching staff, you're not putting them in the best light to win games. They got Gaddis there. They hired him from Alabama. And there was a lot of back and forth between Gaddis and Loxley, who was the offensive play caller. But I don't care who's been there. That offense looked nothing like what Alabama ran last year, and it looked everything like what Michigan's been running since Harbaugh got there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what they do. I mean,
so it's him.
It looked like when he played at Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they look like. But you're just not going to win like that anymore.
No, and to be that hard-headed, I guess he just doesn't care. He's going to do it his way,
well, his way is going to get him out the door.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's pitiful. And those fans really, they had been going through so much there at Michigan. They really thought Harbaugh was going to be the next Saban. They thought Harbaugh was going to be the equalizer to Urban Meyer. And especially after Urban Meyer left Ohio State, they thought, well, this is our time. No. Go, you're what you are. And they got behind. They came back at the end. They had a chance. They had a crazy play at the end of the game where they had a 8-minute long, did he get in, did he not get in? So it was messed up. But I think that win says a lot about Penn State. So Penn State and Ohio State, they're on a collision course just like Alabama and LSU are. And that's going to be a good football game when those two teams strap up the headgear and go at it. So
I fully expect Ohio State to win the game.
yeah, they look. I don't see anybody beating them.
Convincingly.
We will see. We will see. A lot of see. You never know because you don't know who's going to get hurt. You don't know what's going to happen, which leads me to my fourth point this week. Not so much of a game of the week. It was kind of, I think, not a boring game, but it was a game that had a lot of surprises, a weird game, like you talked about earlier, how the games were weird. The Alabama-Tennessee game, big rivalry. Alabama wins the game 35-13. They didn't cover, but it was a sound, if you look at the scoreboard, it was a sound victory. But what you lose in that a lot is Tennessee had the ball down there, had a chance to cut it with a one-score lead with 7-8 minutes to go in the game. Quarterback, second-team quarterback, because the first-team quarterback had gotten knocked out, decides to change the play on his own or whatever, tries to go over the top, and he gets the ball knocked out of it, and it's hit to the fastest person on the team with nobody between him and the goal line, and that was the ball game. And Guantanamo, he never came back on the field, and he may not.
Yeah, Jeremy lost his temper with that situation. You know, I know
you don't know what goes on. You don't know what happens. The play change or whatever. But Jeremy was on edge all night.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just a crazy game. I guess he was on edge because of some mishandling of the clock. I guess that he seemed, and you know, I think there's some penalties that they think didn't go their way, and you know, but Alabama got a ton of penalties, and Alabama has more penalties this year probably than they had all of last year. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know. It's the whole thing. The whole game was strange, just like a lot of ball games yesterday it was just a strange atmosphere all day yesterday.
Well, and that leads me to this. Tua goes out in the second quarter. They say that he's had that same type surgery. I don't know that it's really what a surgery. I don't know how invasive it is. But he's had this procedure done to where they...
Yeah, him and Jalen both had it last year.
So
fortunately, last year it was on his left ankle, and this time it's on his right ankle. And last year it took him basically 4 weeks to come back, 28 days or so. Yeah. But he's only got 21
days. He's got 20
days.
days, not 21. It's 20 days. In 21 days, this game will be over. We'll be talking about it, and that team will be the SEC West champion, more than likely. So, that being said, how concerned are you with Tua coming back on 20 days after this procedure? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I think LSU and Burroughs is playing as well as anybody. They're playing as well as Alabama is on offense. Defense, probably about the same. The game's in Tuscaloosa. That's definitely your advantage if you're an Alabama fan. But if they have to have Tua, I believe, to win that game.
Yeah, they're not going to. If Tua doesn't play, I don't think we win. But I don't think we win. Period.
But the players seem to think. But and same thing with LSU. They don't win without Burroughs. But everybody seems to think, hey, he had this done. He's going to be back. He's going to be ready. No big deal. Nothing to see here. Go on. But I'm concerned.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see, But I mean, if he's back, I think he'll be fine. When he came back last year, of course he had 8 more days of recovery time, but that's when he came back was when we played Oklahoma, and he played fine. He looked good. That was his plant foot last year. This time it's just his front, but it's his, not his plant foot. So if he comes back, I'll feel pretty good. If he don't come back, I don't feel good at all. I mean, we actually ran the ball better the last two games. I think the offensive line unit that they've got, I think they finally figured out the combination.
Yeah.
Because the running game really has progressed in the last 2 weeks. But it's a different league now, you know. Like you said, LSU can score and they will score.
Man,
And so
can they
I
score.
mean, you're gonna have to score with them. And
Boy,
if we don't have
think about
two,
saying
I
that
don't
10
know.
years ago.
Yeah, 9-6.
In the lap 2000, not even 9, 8 years ago.
Yeah,
And now you've got two offenses that are going into yesterday were 1-2, and we will see how that shakes out. But
I hope he
I
gets
hope
well.
both teams are at 100%, and I hope both teams stay healthy. And I think that those two teams are playing great, and we will see. But those are the four games that I thought were the most impactful this weekend. When we break down the conference, and one other thing, I'm glad that Noisy State was beaten, so we don't have to hear about them.
Well, they beat.
They got beat by Brigham Young. Brigham Young's had some several big wins this year. Now, they've had some bad losses, but they beat Tennessee, they beat UCLA, and they beat Boise State. But they've lost to some very mediocre teams as well. So they've had a very strange season. I actually stayed up late to watch the end of that game, and it looked like the officials tried everything they could to give Boise State a chance to win that game, but finally BYU went for it on their own territory, on their own 30-yard line at the end of the game with 2 minutes to go in the game for half a yard and got it after it had been overturned in replay, and then they were able to run the clock out. They were up ahead. They were ahead 28-10, and then Boise State came running back. So good win by Brigham Young. Thank you for getting rid of Boise State.
So Noisy State's out.
Noisy State's out.
And UCF is out of the conversation.
Yeah.
So
Hey, but SMU, the Pony Express, they're putting their herd back together. I wonder how long
been 35 years.
It's been a long time. So they're undefeated. So
yeah,
good for them. Then looking at the SEC. We've touched on Alabama. We've talked. To me, it looks like it's Alabama and LSU in the West, LSU and Florida and Georgia in the East. It looks like the winner of those two games are going to represent unless something happens. But they need to take care of the business. As we saw yesterday, Georgia really struggled against Kentucky, but it was a very messy game. But Fromm, again, had a very bad game. But it was bad conditions, and Georgia did find a way to win, find a way to complete the shutout as they beat Kentucky 21-0. Texas A&M goes on the road and beats Ole Miss. I know
good game.
Yeah, good game. For Ole Miss is a very young team. A&M, we sang their praises this year. Maybe they're getting a little bit better, but their schedule is just so tough. Florida. Mullen's doing a very good job. I never would have thought I would brag on Mullen, but that was a tough spot for them coming off that game against LSU to go to South Carolina and win.
Yeah, it was. I mean, South Carolina, South Carolina played a good game also. They were actually ahead there. Was it in the fourth quarter they were ahead?
Yeah.
And
then just
but
all of a sudden.
They got some questionable non-penalties and penalties, and Muschamp had to come apart.
I bet he'll be fined over that.
What he told the official to, what do you call him, gutless.
Yeah, that's going to get him a fine right there. But I understand what he's saying.
Oh, yeah.
I understand. I thought if you're going to, in officiating, the coach is not going to say something to me, and I'm going to go 40 yards down the field, and I'm going to throw a flag on him. And as being a former official, I'm going to drop it. When he said he wished he'd have dropped it at his feet, I would have dropped it at his feet if he had crossed the line.
Yeah.
And I think he knew he did. I don't think he was arguing that he didn't. But that's he's fiery. You know, he's always. You can remember when he was a defensive coordinator at Auburn and how he used. Always he's been like that, and I think a lot of times that's to his detriment. But
yeah, I mean the officiating this year is leaving a lot to be. I mean, it's always been questionable, but I mean, the play I think he was talking about was. There was a pick play, and it was so obvious. I mean, how can any official that has to go to school, has to know the rules, has to study this, how can they not? How do they not see that?
That's your key. That's the thing. You know, everybody is assigned a receiver basically, so you have to. You watch that guy to snap, and you're looking for just that. And you got to have the courage to make that call.
Well, that was an easy one.
Well, you would think, but it wasn't made. And good calls, bad calls, they go on both sides. You know, the officials are not, you know, a lot of times I didn't know. And, you know, I would try to be honest. You know, hey, coach, that's what I saw. Are you sure? Well, no, not really, but that's what I thought I saw.
Yeah, it's not been a good year for the officials. I mean, there's been a lot of there's no consistency on targeting calls. There's no consistency on roughing the passer calls. There's no consistency on pass interference. One game you can lock up and go all the way down the field with a receiver. The next game you touch a receiver, or a receiver touches you, it's offensive interference, it's defensive interference. It's just, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to watch. I mean, especially when you get a lot of penalties. For example, like in the Alabama game, I didn't think the game was going to be over till Sunday morning.
The penalty sheet was almost filled up in the first half, so it was a lot of penalties. And I'm not saying that those was not penalties. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not either. I'm just saying they need to be.
I'm just saying, you know, the teams control a lot of that as well, but that's a lot of penalties in a game. So, you know,
there just needs to be some consistency about what they call and how they call it. I mean, if you're, you know, obviously you can call holding every single play if you wanted to, and most of the time you can call pass interference every play, but it's different from one game to the next.
Yeah. Well, and moving on from there, Auburn, huge victory in that they just dominated Arkansas. Boy, Malzahn, he always just beat the daylights out of Arkansas.
Hey, he does that on purpose.
He does.
Yeah.
He's gonna lay the wood to Arkansas when he can. Think there's a lot of bad blood there from when he was there with Houston Nutt.
Is the Chad Morris experience over?
That's a great question. I don't see. They're awful. They are awful.
Oh, they're terrible.
Awful. I just don't see I don't see what their identity. I don't see what they're trying to do. I don't see what they're trying to accomplish, and I don't see them getting any better.
No, they haven't gotten.
Not from year one to year two. So we will see. I didn't think that was a good fit to begin with, but we will see. Game of the week in the SEC, or most shocker, Vandy beats Missouri.
We bragged on Missouri last week.
Teams cannot handle being bragged on.
We bragged on Missouri, said, don't forget about Missouri.
And now you can.
And what happens? Vanderbilt beats Missouri.
Now you have a loss to Wyoming and Vanderbilt, but you've beat some good teams along the way. So go figure. This is the type of year. This is the time of year when you will have a team that's been struggling all year, and then they'll get a team at home, and they're ready. You know, this can make their season, and you will get a lot of those teams. In Illinois' case, the coach said that this was the first time they'd been healthy all year. So maybe some of these teams get healthy, gets a few players back, and they have a few things that they want to prove. So that's kind of a wrap-up from the SEC. Going through the rest of the conferences real quick. ACC is basically Clemson or bust. Clemson, the only undefeated team there. Clemson will be double-digit favorites, maybe even 20-point favorites against everybody that they play the rest of the year. They do have one tricky game at South Carolina. Could be a tricky game.
I mean,
South Carolina beat
Carolina,
Georgia. You never know.
I mean, South Carolina's playing good.
They are. They are. And then a team to keep an eye on. Clemson will probably play them in the ACC championship game, and this is a good football team. Virginia.
Yeah.
They are a solid football team, and Bronco Mendenhall, he has that team playing very good, and I'm not saying that they're going to beat Clemson, but they've got 2 games that they're going to have to play that's not complete layups, Clemson, that is. Big Ten, I basically think it's going to come down between Ohio State and Penn State, the winner of that game. In the East, we'll probably play Minnesota or Wisconsin, but I see the winner of the Ohio State-Penn State game, and like you talked about earlier, I pretty much assume that's going to be Ohio State. If everybody stays healthy, we will see.
Well, Minnesota is, I mean, they're
PJ Fleck has them playing.
We better not brag on them too much.
Oh, I don't care if they win or lose. So I think he's done a good job.
Yeah, they beat Rutgers.
Well, they beat
42-7.
And they're a big favorite this week.
Yeah.
They're a huge favorite, 17, 18-point favorite this week.
But they're quietly 7-0, but they're like number 20, or I guess.
Yeah.
Around number 20. They may have moved up a couple of spots, but I mean, nobody really talks about Minnesota, but they are undefeated.
Yeah. Let them win another game or two, and they'll be building them up. Big 12, I think it's Oklahoma or bust. I know Baylor's undefeated in the Big 12, but I don't see Baylor getting all the way up and being able to pass a one-loss LSU or a one-loss Alabama or a one-loss, well, Georgia would be, if they win, they'd win the SEC.
Yeah.
I don't see them being able to get above them. But if you look at Oklahoma, what's interesting,
it's a little tougher than it seems, right?
It does. I mean, we've looked at Oklahoma. Oh, you haven't played anybody. But if they get through this last 6 weeks of the season, here's what they've got to go through. At Kansas State.
It's always tough there.
Always. Always a tough game then. And then we've talked about at Baylor. Baylor's undefeated.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough game. And then at the end of the year, they have Bedlam. And that
Big
game this year
game.
is at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's not a cakewalk. It's not
And
a cakewalk.
then, if they finish all that, they will probably play either Baylor or Texas again. And you know how hard it is to beat a team 2 times.
Yeah, but Texas, after watching them again this weekend, I'm not sold on Texas.
No, I'm not. I mean, they barely beat Kansas. A last-second field goal to beat Kansas.
I'm not sold on Texas.
I'm not either.
At the beginning of the year, I kind of was, but then after LSU played them, they didn't. Their defense is not that good.
No.
I mean, what was the score? What did they score, like 50 yesterday? Was the score 50-48 or something like that against Kansas?
Yeah, last-second field goal to get that 50. Needed every one of them. I'm with you. But if Oklahoma runs that table, they'll be in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
If they don't,
They won't.
they won't. I don't think they can get in. Pac-12, Oregon. Some people talk about Utah, but to me, Oregon's the best team in the Pac-12. They've got that loss to Auburn. That's going to be hard to overcome. So I don't see anybody coming from the Pac-12. I think your 4-team playoffs right now, as it stands, is Alabama, LSU, or Georgia, one of those from the SEC. I don't see anybody beating Ohio State. I don't see anybody beating Clemson. And I really don't see anybody beating Oklahoma, but they could drop a game. And if they drop a game, that would pull the loser of the Alabama-LSU game into the playoffs in my mind if
Yeah.
it shakes out that way. So we will see. Rankings came out today. We had some upsets in the top 25 yesterday with Wisconsin that we've talked about. It's still Alabama LSU. You like that?
Yeah, I think I think Alabama or LSU or Ohio State, any three of them could be in any one of those positions, and I wouldn't really care. I think they're all right now. You could just pick them out of a hat.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. I think.
I don't think Clemson
I
is
think
good.
you could even throw Oklahoma in that bunch right now because I think all of those teams, Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Georgia, and maybe even Penn State. I mean, I would say Penn State is a notch below, and probably Oklahoma's a notch below. You've got those four teams, but Penn State's got a chance to take care of some of that. And Oklahoma can move up if they win their games and the loser of the Alabama LSU game. And we will see. After that, you've got Florida at 7, Notre Dame at 8, Auburn at 9, Georgia at 10. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 10 teams from the SEC.
As it should be.
As it should be. You also have a large representation in the top 20 of the Big Ten with Ohio State, Penn State.
Michigan.
How is Michigan ranked? I don't know. But you got Minnesota also, and you got Iowa, so you got 5 of the top 20. So
Michigan's got to be ranked because of the Michigan Notre Dame game.
They had to justify that. But if this. And I guess this is a good segue to go into games of the week. Games of the week this week, going for week 9. You talked about Michigan. Michigan at, Notre Dame at Michigan. You mentioned Michigan was a favorite. I've got it 2.5. You saw it at 1.5.
I don't know.
How are they favored? They've not won a big game. Do you have any confidence?
No, I think Notre Dame will beat them probably about like Penn State beat them. I don't think Notre Dame will blow them out, but I think it'll be 7 to 10 points.
You got to think that they're going to turn the corner sometime.
Who?
Michigan. But I just don't see it with that offense. Mm-mm. I really don't.
They are what they are. They're kind of like the Auburn of the Big Ten.
Yeah. Well,
they're gonna win their share of games, but the Ohio States and every now and then they'll slip up and beat them, but it's not going to be consistent. Not with Jim Harbaugh, not with his philosophy. If he changes. He could have them.
I don't know that they fire him, but if he loses to Michigan, to Notre Dame, and if he loses to Ohio State, does he quit?
No, he's not gonna quit. He won't quit. Maybe if an NFL job comes open.
Well, they talk like the Atlanta game. The Atlanta job is coming open.
Yeah,
it's coming open, no doubt. So,
I
think that's a must-win for Harbaugh, but I do not have any confidence. They've not shown me anything that I have any confidence that they can beat Notre Dame. Maybe they would. I wouldn't touch the game betting on it, but
I don't see it.
I just don't. I don't have any confidence. The next game of the week, I think the two best conferences are the Big Ten and the SEC. We've got a huge one in the Big Ten. Wisconsin at Ohio State. Ohio State is a 14-point favorite. You like them big? Or you like Wisconsin? Wisconsin defense. I think Wisconsin was looking ahead.
I think they'll have a wake-up call. But
that's a big step to go to the horseshoe and win.
I like Ohio State, but I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a close game. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout by any means.
Well,
Because Ohio State looks good to me.
oh, they do. They do me also.
I'm
really
interested
think-
to see how Wisconsin's defense handles Ohio State's offense.
I do too. I'm gonna give you a sneaky game and a game where the line is really funny looking. And when they send out these lines, I always look at them when they come out because I want to see what the opening line is. And then I want to see those lines that I see that's like this and how they move throughout the week. Penn State, undefeated, ranked 6th in the country, playing at Michigan State. Michigan State has really struggled and has not looked good at really any point this year. And Penn State's only a 6.5 point favorite.
That's strange.
If I was a Penn
don't
State
know.
fan, I would be very nervous this week. Watch out for that game. Michigan State, this like we talked about, teams that's been struggling all year, they can make their season on a big win. And I don't know if Michigan State was off this week, but maybe they were off, which even adds more to it. But if I'm Penn State, I am worried about that game, going in that game. I want to be mentally prepared for anything because I believe Michigan State is going to play you. You're going to have to play your best game all year. You're going to have to play better than you did this past week when you played Michigan, in my opinion. We will see. We will see. Moving to the SEC, wrapping up here in the SEC, we've got several games. Here's a game for if Tennessee's got any shot to make a bow. South Carolina at Tennessee. South Carolina, I believe, is a 4.5 point favorite. Or is it Tennessee favorite? It's Tennessee favorite in that game.
Can't be.
If
I don't see Tennessee. I mean,
even at 4.5 point underdog, I just don't. I didn't see that. So they're giving Tennessee a good shot to win the game.
well, I mean, I think Tennessee they do have some players. I mean, they have some SEC caliber players on their team, and
I thought they played hard for Pruitt last night.
They just don't have any depth right now. They don't have any backups to come in and really relieve the starters. But I mean, overall, they have SEC talent players on the team. So, and that quarterback, before he got knocked out, he looked pretty good to me. I mean, of course he's a freshman, but he played good. I mean, he. But Alabama, be honest. Alabama's defense this year is not Alabama standard defense. No. So,
but I thought that was their best game yesterday.
Oh, Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, they.
I thought that was best. You talked about it earlier. I thought that was the best that Najee had played in a long time.
Yeah, I mean the running game. I think this combination is what this offensive line. I think this is the key to them being able to run the football.
Well, that's just I wouldn't say a strange line.
It is kind of weird.
I penciled it in that South Carolina would be favored, but they're a 4.5 point favorite, which Tennessee, they're at home. They're a young team as well, but if he's wanting to make that turn, these are games that he's going to have to win. The loser of this game is going to be in some, be some grumpy fans his way. Mississippi State at Texas A&M. Texas A&M 10-point favorite. A&M's they're getting a little bit better each week. They're not what I thought they would be at this point, but they're getting a little bit better. Jimbo's coaching hard. We will see how that goes. A game that I want to see how Alabama. I was surprised to see this line as well. Arkansas at Alabama. Alabama will be playing with Mr. Jones or maybe a younger quarterback. or maybe a little bit of both.
Maybe a little both. Get a little both of them.
Maybe a little bit of both. I'm sure Jones will get to start, will get to play, but I wonder, he's got to get somebody else ready. Who is that going to be? Is that going to be Tua's brother?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's already listed as the number 3 on the totem pole, but that's I mean,
what's he going? What can he bring to the game more so than Jones?
I think he's a little more mobile. You know, I mean, if you watched him play high school, I mean, he's twitchy. I mean, he's quick. He can. I mean, even in the what was it? The spring game? Did he play? He played in the spring game, didn't he? Yeah. I mean, he's got skills and talents, but I mean, of course, he is young. But what does that say about Arkansas that Alabama don't have their starting quarterback, and we're still a 33.5-point favorite over Arkansas?
Yeah, it came out at 35 too, so they bet it down real quick.
Arkansas is just horrible. I think
they are.
I think Alabama could beat them with me or you playing quarterback.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, I just that 33.5 point with a backup quarterback, and especially how they struggled a little bit yesterday moving the ball.
But last year Arkansas scored the most points on us during the regular season. They scored like 31.
Yeah. Maybe that's something Nick wants to make a statement.
Yeah, I mean, they found our little weakness last year.
They hit that tight end time after time.
Soft in the middle of the defense,
but I think this team is getting a little bit better than what we saw last year. I think this defense is getting a little bit better. Not giant strides, but I think they're getting a little bit better. They're getting a little bit depth more each game. So I think this will be a good test for them. This may end up being a very good thing to see some other players, where they don't have to rely on Tua so much. I know they'd rather have him. I would rather that they have him. But maybe this will give others a chance to step up. So I'm going to be interested in seeing that game last Saturday night.
What about the
late Saturday?
What about
night?
one of the loudest cheers I heard watching the game on TV was when we had a 46-yard punt.
Man, wasn't that something? Could you hear that on TV?
Oh, it was ecstatic.
And then I think on the second one when he went down there and he tackled a boy.
I was going to say, if we need a backup middle linebacker, I mean, maybe he could step in.
He did a good job. So I like Nick. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, watch his interview when they asked him about what he thought about the punter. Nick turned it around on the reporter and asked him what he saw. So we will see.
That was a pleasant surprise.
It was. He did a good job. And the ball turned over good. It was a good punt, and everybody went wild. That shows you how much Alabama people pay attention to the football team.
I think
they know what the second team punter, people have been asking about him.
He punted
third
twice.
Team punter, really.
Yeah. He
did
punted
a great
twice.
job.
2 times for a average of like 46 yards. So
very good job. Hey,
that's the longest punt we've had all year.
Oh, I thought it was JK back out there. That was good. That was good to see. Game of the week. This week, hands down, not a close second for the SEC. Auburn at LSU. This is a must-win for Auburn to have any shot.
They can forget it.
They can forget it.
They're not going to beat LSU.
LSU's 11.5-point favorite. Auburn may give you the blueprint, though, on how to slow Burroughs down. How last year, the blueprint kind of went out on, I think, Mississippi State. Kind of showed a lot of people early in the year how to slow Tua down. A lot of teams started doing that. Then at the end of the year, it was really a lot harder for Alabama to do the things that they wanted to with Tua. And I'm sure Auburn's defense by far is the best defense in the conference, maybe the country.
The front is, but they're a little weak on the back end. And
as
quick as Burrow gets rid of the football, I don't think that pass rush of Auburn's is going to be really effective because Burrow gets rid of the ball as fast as anybody I've seen. He can throw the slant almost as good as anybody else.
Well, and
Not named.
and
Tagovailoa.
Auburn may do. They may not bring the pressure.
Yeah, they may.
They may drop guys in coverage, try to cover those little short underneath routes. So there's a chess match, and that's going to be interesting to see. But that's the game of the week. Auburn loses. They're buried in the West, and then it will be interesting to see if the natives turn on Malzahn.
They love him.
Yeah, we'll see if he let him lose to LSU, Georgia, and Alabama. We'll see how much they love him, and we will see. But that's Week 8 review, Week 9 preview. What's your game you looking most forward to this week, JB?
Well, that's a no-brainer. LSU and Auburn.
Who you got?
I've got LSU.
Big? They covered 11.5?
I think so.
And put the house on it?
No, I ain't going to put the house on it, but I don't see Auburn hanging with them. I just don't see it.
You the expert game picker.
It's at LSU.
At LSU.
At night.
Yeah. Another strange line. No, it's not at night. It's 2:30.
Well, it'll be night by the time the second half rolls around. But yeah, I
like LSU.
LSU's not going. I mean,
I
Auburn's
don't
not
think
going to
Auburn,
beat LSU.
even as average as LSU's defense has played this year, but they've got a lot of those guys back. Auburn's they'll struggle moving the ball on LSU, and Burrows is marching down that field. One other line, Texas Christian and Texas, the game's at TCU. What do you think the line is?
I'd say Texas -6.
TCU's favored.
Really?
Yep.
My goodness.
So now's when the time you start to see some crazy lines. And when you see the lines like that, you better be careful. You better watch it. But those were some lines that jumped out at me. Those kind of keep an eye on them, see how they go. And we'll see. The season is marching right along. We're getting the best time of the year where you got, man, it just doesn't get much better than this. You got the World Series starting. You got conference games, big-time conference game, top 10 matchups. It's not too cold. You can still enjoy the games out there. High school football's wrapping up their regular season, getting ready for Thanksgiving and the holidays and Christmas. And it's just from now to the end of the year is just my favorite time of the year. It's Christmas pretty much for me for the last 2.5 months.
Yep.
So we will see. Can't wait. I hope everything's well with Tua. I hope the SEC, they continue to look good and represent, the teams represent the conferences good. And I would love to be able to get 2 teams in this year, but I just don't see it happening. And that's a shame because I think we've got 2 of the best 3 teams in the conference. But at the end of the day, you can't overlook an undefeated conference champion. So, that being said,
That's it.
Week 8 is in the books.
Over.
Over in week 9. Days are getting shorter. Time changes in a couple of weeks. Any so far this year, everything's been working out like you thought?
Basically. I mean, I didn't think Alabama's defense was going to be this weak, but of course we didn't know we were going to be playing a lot of freshmen, and I'm surprised at Ohio State at how good they are.
Yeah.
I didn't think they would be that good. And the biggest surprise for me, like you said, is LSU.
Coach O
did change their offense, which I would never believe.
Go Tigers. So we will see.
That's a surprise.
So we will see you guys at Week 9. Week 9, we will be back here from She Shed radio stations here in Northport, L.A. and J.B. Things should unfold a little bit. We're getting closer to those first college football rankings coming out, and when those come out, we will switch from the AP rankings to those rankings of the college football playoffs. We will see. So, with that being said, anything else, JB?
Let's get ready for next week.
Get ready for week 9. Can't wait. So, all you guys take care. Special thanks to She Shed Radio's station, letting us use their studio here. Thanks, Perry Madison and Kimberly Madison, for editing our content and our show and putting everything together. For without them, we sure would not be able to do this. And we look forward to being back with you next Sunday night. Thank you guys much for listening, and take care.